Welcome back to Wow Drama Stories. I have 3 stories for you today, so let's jump right in. Timestamps in the description box. Story 1. Opie writes, My 25 female, husband 30 male, who we will call Kevin, have been married for 2 years and been together for 4. Throughout our relationship, we've never had a fight or even broken up. As far as I know, everything between us has been great. However, one day we got into the conversation of me getting a pixie cut. The whole relationship with my husband, my hair has always been shoulder length. It's never been longer or shorter than that. Kevin told me he doesn't want me to cut my hair that short, but if I wanted to change up my look, I should grow it out instead. However, my hair is super thick and super hard to manage when long, to the point of me refusing to grow out my hair past my shoulders. I told him that I want to cut it short because it's becoming such a chore to manage during the summertime. My husband argues that, quote, since he has to see it all the time, he should have a say on what I have as a hairstyle, unquote. Then I told him that, quote, it's my hair and I can do what I want with it. Plus, it's just hair, unquote. But my husband won't budge and just kept trying to convince me to grow out my hair. I eventually got fed up with him and drove to the salon and told the hairdresser to shave off my entire hair. When I got home that day, my husband looked visibly upset and began to ignore me. At bedtime, he told me that I should have took his opinions into consideration instead of cutting my hair impulsively. Am I the a-hole for shaving my head to prove a point? Edit. I love my buzz cut. It makes me feel empowered, and while it was an impulsive decision, I truly do love my buzzed hair. Well, damn, Opie, you definitely know how to make a point. I'm sure Kevin is going to be very careful from now on when he has something to say about your hair. Let's get some comments from other people before we get an update from Opie. Someone comments, not the a-hole. It's your hair and your head, not his. He's allowed to not like your haircuts, but he's not allowed to decide what haircuts you get. Someone else writes, not the a-hole. Just know that a shortcut with thick hair does not equal more manageable. My daughter got a pixie for her short hair, and it did not go how she thought. It doesn't hold shape, poofs out, and gets wildly tangled the second it starts to grow. P.S. I love a good Petty Betty scorched earth, so congrats on your new do. And our final comment before we get an update. I remember my ex saying he'd break up with me if I shaved my head. I never actually wanted to, but the fact he could break up with me just because of hair made it obvious he wasn't the one. And here's Opie's update. I showed my husband this post, and he seemed to understand where I'm coming from. The buzz cut is slowly growing on him, and he even calls me his little, quote, G.I. Jane, unquote, which is kind of cute since I'm in the military. He also understands now that while he's entitled to his opinion, he really doesn't have a say to what I do with my body. He says as long as I'm not harming myself or others, I should be able to do what I want with my body. We talked it out and he and I are okay now. P.S. When I said, quote, we don't fight, unquote, I mean like screaming matches and sleeping on the couch kind of fight. We've bickered and had disagreements, but never to the point of being so angry with each other that we sleep in separate rooms. Hope that clears it out. P.S.S. My hair is super straight and super thick, in case you all were wondering. Think Asian hair or native hair, super straight and thick and black. Story 2. Opie writes, long post. Husband and best friend who lives on our road were in support until I actually did it. Now they're saying I've gone too far. Some background info. We live on a small dead-end street. Problem neighbors are 2 houses in the middle. They're part of a council placement program, which is only worth mentioning because it means they have a housing authority who I've already contacted. I've also contacted a community officer about harassment from them, but still waiting for anything to be done. They have 5 to 6 kids each, ranging from 4 to 16, and allow them out until 10 p.m. with no supervision. They shout, scream, kick balls into people's fences, and occasionally cars by accident. For some reason, they like to all hang out at the end of the road, which is basically the foot of my driveway. Sometimes we go out and ask them to move on, like at 9 p.m, when they are shrieking and kicking our fence and our 1-year-old daughter needs to sleep. Tonight they had a party with many other kids and adults coming over. It began with them dragging a fully court-size basketball hoop as tall as our streetlights to my drive. This thing sounds like a gunshot when the ball ricochets off the back. It was 8 p.m. and our daughter was about to go to sleep, so I asked them to move. They argued, and the next thing I knew, their guardian is at my door, ranting at me and saying she's sick of me complaining about her kids. Her kids then threatened to take the ball round the side, nearer my baby's window. I said I didn't want to argue and left it. Then they took our recycling bins and set them up along our end fence as goalposts, hitting our fence and our bins and sending our recycling across the street. Husband asked them to stop and park the car along the fence on the road to deter them. They started kicking the ball at my car and laughed while they did it. I recorded them from inside, and they saw and began pulling faces at me, laughing and shouting at the house loudly about how it was a public space. My husband then sent me a video of them coming up our driveway, refusing to leave or to stop damaging my car. That's when I called the police. Am I the a-hole? I don't want to file a report or press charges because they are kids. I just want them to get an actual warning from someone with authority. Surely this is harassment. We both spoke to them multiple times, telling them to move away from or off our property, and they only escalated. Okay, OP, the thing that stands out for me the most about this, that I find the most worrisome, is that the guardian of these kids is basically encouraging their behavior. They're taunting you, they're harassing you. I definitely think you're right about it. It's harassment, it's intimidation actually. And the guardian, the person with authority over them, is telling them that it's okay, and apparently it really does seem like this person is encouraging it. I think it's a really big red flag for the future of these kids when their guardian approves of their bad behavior. When an adult tells kids like that it's okay to be like that and to keep on doing things like that, it just makes me worry about their future. Let's see what other people have to say about this before we get an update from OP. I would have called the police the moment the guardian started yelling her/his head off at you. It is, after all, your property, and he/she is harassing you. The kids are clearly going out of their way to be a menace. I'd press charges against the adults, but there's a fear that they'll retaliate out of spite. I've called the cops on neighbors once because they were partying till the wee hours of the night on a weekday night. Now, it never happened again. OP replies, I think my husband is worried about causing tension on the road and of them retaliating, but I just didn't care anymore. It's been an ongoing problem of them camping by my drive and being belligerent anytime we ask them to move on. They've told us to move before and even said we shouldn't have had a baby if we didn't like the noise. It's slowly gotten worse to the point that any interaction with them leads to their guardian ranting at me, or the kids acting worse out of spite. Someone else comments, not the a-hole. You have the right to live peacefully in your own home. The situation sounds like a nightmare. Do what you must. OP replies, that's literally all I want. A little peace for my family. We've had a really long talk about moving this evening. And here's our first update from OP. A community officer contacted me and has said they understand why it was upsetting for us, and they will be around later today to give, quote, words of advice, unquote, to our neighbors about their children's behavior towards us. I wasn't even given the option of filing a report or anything more serious, so I suppose that would only occur if things continued or escalated. I'm a bit worried they will, but at least I'll have the documented history of call-outs to the police now about it. Final update. Community officer had a chat with our neighbors and called me. Sounds as though they completely lied about everything, and the officer almost told me off for calling on, quote, kids just being kids, unquote. I told her we had videos of them doing X, Y, and Z, and she just went, quote, oh, unquote. In a way, I regret calling now, as this doesn't seem to have done much, especially as she also told me the neighbors weren't happy at all that the police had been called. On the other hand, I absolutely think I was in the right to call the police at the time, after I assured the officer that they were not being truthful and their behavior was far worse than what they were admitting to. She understood and said I could call if this happened again. My partner and I have been talking all evening, and we've decided for now to completely ignore our neighbors, while also looking at moving home. We know this isn't where we want to live forever, and we don't want our little girl and our new baby to associate with these kids. Thank you to everyone for the reassurance that I wasn't being an a-hole. OP, I really hope this works out for you, and it sounds like the best thing is to move, and since you're open to that, I hope you find something very, very soon. Story number 3. OP writes, my significant other and myself have been letting one of their family members crash with us while they look for a job and save money for rent. We agreed on a specific length of time of several months. Exact number of days was agreed. This agreement was clearly vocalized between the three of us on the day they arrived. It has been 5 to 6 times longer than the agreed upon length. In that time, they have almost exclusively slept most of the day, binged TV and games, and hang out with friends. I have repeatedly asked why are they still here to my significant other, who assured me they just needed more time. The problem being I have a mental illness stemming from prolonged abuse, and they have a very abrasive personality on top of the above problems. I finally had enough, told my significant other I want their family member out, and stayed at my parents' with our child until they packed up and left. They packed up that night, and so far I've been accused of 1. Taking our kid away. I was gone for less than a day and had no intention to ever refuse contact between child and parent. I don't work and take care of the kids when significant other is at work. 2. It's my fault their family member has no place to turn to. They had previously burnt down other bridges with other friends and family doing something similar. 3. I'm too emotionally sensitive. In therapy, I'm assured this is a tactic, gaslighting that minimizes my feelings. So, am I an a-hole for not letting myself be a doormat? OP, I think you were very generous sharing your home for as long as you did. And it must have been very frustrating watching somebody just lying around on the couch, playing video games, hanging out with friends, instead of looking for employment. Let's get some comments before we get an update from OP. Not the a-hole. Often, quote, you're too sensitive, unquote, really means, quote, I want to be an a-hole and for you to just suck it up, unquote. I have lost count of the people on this sub who have a significant other who seems to think nothing of trashing the peace and privacy of the OP's home with an irresponsible, freeloading friend or relative. Ugh. OP replies, I've lost count how many times me being in a bad mood or sensitive means my feelings are disregarded and offensive behavior directed at me is excused. But my feelings are punished across multiple relationships/jobs. Someone else says, wait, so they've lazed through over a year? You're not the a-hole, except to yourself. OP replies, I wish I was the only one being the a-hole to myself. That's easier to deal with. Let's get a final comment before we go to an update from OP. not the a-hole. You're being manipulated by a significant other and his relative. You have every right to demand that the squatter leave your home and get their lazy ass back to work. They can pay their own rent and stop taking advantage of you. If your significant other likes them so much, then maybe he should move out with them. Sorry, but you are way too polite to have put up with this abominable behavior for way too long. Do not let anyone disrespect you like that. And here's an update from OP. They are currently living in their car parked across the road from my home. I've taken video and photographs, and I'm prepared to turn it over to the police if need be. Well, OP, at least they are out of your house, but unfortunately still living right in front of your house, so I hope they are not going to try and move back in. But I've got a feeling you're going to find them in the mornings in your kitchen, having your coffee, going upstairs, having a shower, basically still helping themselves to your house. The only difference seems to be that they are sleeping in the car. But that's it for this installment of Wow Drama Stories. Thank you for listening. Leave your comments below. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Consider subscribing and hit the notification bell. Until next time, wishing you a drama-free life.